Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Reese's Peace of Mind, where we read your cringiest, your spiciest, your craziest, your worst and your best stories, and we react with the utmost extraness. So, thank you guys for being here with me, and today we're gonna get into Reese's deep dark Kindle library. We're gonna be getting into a book that I found in the deepest parts of my Kindle library. So, I won't say that the book today is recommended because it was not recommended. It was something that I ended up, like I said before, finding in my Kindle library. I don't know if you guys know this, but like Kindle does a free book giveaway type of thing where for a whole day, like they have a whole bunch of books that wouldn't necessarily be free and end up being free. And on that day, I decided that it would be a good idea to download 320 books. I'm not kidding. I will post a picture of it somewhere around me. Editor Reese, post a picture of my Kindle library books. And so I was going through my Kindle library, as I do regularly when I'm not reading manhwas and mangas, and I discovered this pretty little cover of this book, and I was like, ooh, this shit look interesting. So I clicked it, and I read the synopsis, and I was like, it's giving cringe, but it's not giving too much cringe, or like it's giving enjoyable cringe. So I was like, ooh, let me click that, let me see what it's about. And surprisingly, guys, like it wasn't the worst. Like it wasn't bad. Like a little cliche at moments, a little extra at times, but the book was not bad. I kind of enjoyed myself. So the name of the book is actually Shattered Vow. It's by Eva Chase. Shout outs to her. In this story, we have our main character, Riva, bad bitch fighter extraordinaire, like mutant, if you will. And she and her 5 men, yes, you heard me, men, plural, reverse harem, might be my little, how people indulge in snacks? That's my little indulgence. That's my little, it's the way you walk type shit. So her men, they get put up in this facility. Like, think X-Men meets Twilight, because that's the vibes this gives me. Like, she's in a facility, she with her men, they all in this facility, they got injected with weird shit from the time that they were a baby. So this all they know. They've been injected with this weird shit that makes them get these mutant powers. And they get treated like shit. They're in this facility. They ass beat. They be having to train. I don't know what the fuck they're training for. Well, I do know what they're training for, but I'm not talking about that right now. They're training they're training every day and like getting their powers tested in this shitty facility that they are not having a good time in. This is not a fun time. It's not a good time, but that's where they've been stuck for as long as they know. It's kind of like, it's very urban fantasy, but like with a touch of spice. Not too much spice. Like there are erotic scenes, but I wouldn't call this like a big erotica. I think the first book truly and wholeheartedly only had one, which I wish I would have got a little more of, but we'll talk about that later. The book has 396 pages, so it's a bit of a read, but not too much. For me, like that's pretty average for, a Kindle book. And it got published November 9th of 2022. So this is not too old, not too new. And it is on Kindle Unlimited, so you can check it out there. It has 5 books in the series, which I feel is a bit excessive, but there are 5 books in the series. They go in this order: Shattered Vow, Monstrous Power, Captured Fate, Heartless Foe, and Fearsome Dream, in that order. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I personally only did end up reading the very first two books. I did not get around to the third, fourth, or fifth. Will I get around to them? I don't know yet. Like, the story was interesting, but I felt like the second book kind of dragged it out, and I really don't feel like it needed 5 books, if I'm being honest. Like I said in the previous episode, I'm sorry for the long wait, but I am back to be getting into this with you guys. I'm glad to be back recording again, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. So let's get into it. Okay, so it currently has a 3.84 stars on Goodreads, and you know, as I say, like, I don't always trust reviews because, be it movies or books, these are people's personal opinions, and what they may like or dislike, I may not like and dislike. Like, I feel like a lot of authors get 5 stars and I'd be reading their shit and I'd be like, it's kind of mid. It's kind of mid. And some of these younger authors, they get lower stars, and their books, I'm like, that was actually good. Like, give them their love. But like I said, these are people's opinions, so you might not always agree to it. It has 400 reviews and like 7K ratings. But like I said, reviews aren't always the truth. Okay, guys, don't base everything off reviews. At least read like some of the book and then decide if you like it or not. For this one, I would say that for 3.84, that's kind of what I would match it at. I would say that the book, it's not super bad. Like, it's not super like can't get through cringe, but it's not necessarily like the best. It's not groundbreaking. It's like, it's not something that I would be like, oh my gosh, I have to read that again. It's not a book that I would buy in person and put on the shelf, but I don't regret reading it. I don't think it was a bad read. It was pretty enjoyable for me. Like I said, I only read 2 out of the books out of the 5 series. The second book kind of felt like it was starting to drag for me. So I got to the end of it, and I'm still a little wishy-washy on if I'm going to continue to read the rest of the series. Maybe I'll see how book 3 starts, because book 2 did leave off on a pretty good cliffhanger. But like I said, we'll see. I would say the book characters, really liked them. Had no problems with the book characters. I got a list of the characters and their stuff because anybody who knows me knows, 1, I forget names, 2, I forget details. If I don't write them down in that moment, I'm not gonna remember them. So first things first, we got our main bitch. Bad bitch, ass fat, Riva. I like Riva. I don't hate her. I do wish that because she's such a badass female that like she would put her foot down with her men a little bit more, but that's neither here nor there. She loved them motherfuckers. Like, she is the definition of a ride or die. It don't get much deeper in ride or die than Riva. Like, she loved these men to the point where old girl would rather off herself. She would rather than hurt her men. So she definitely loves them. She's definitely there for him, which is understandable. They got a trauma bond. Like, they've been through this traumatic ass facility together all these years. And even though when they saw her, they treated her badly, she was like, I'm gonna ride for y'all because like I love y'all and we blood. Like, we in this together. I don't hate Riva. I know a lot of people who read the book hate Riva, but like I said, I think there's like a little trauma bond that formed. Like, they've been through a lot together, so I kind of understand where she's coming from. Then we got Griffin, who we don't see a lot of. Griffin, for unforeseeable circumstances. He not really a fighter, but my mans could control and manipulate emotions. He had people questioning their entire lives, had them like, I don't know what to do. So that was enjoyable to see about them. Like I said, he wasn't much of a fighter. He got a twin brother who's a bitch. And since we're talking about the twin, I'll get into him next. Like I said, you're not going to see a lot of Griffin. Jacob, Griffin's twin, not just brother, twin brother, all right, is a bitch. That's the best thing I could say about my boy. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. I was ready to fight him 90% of this novel. I was like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? Like, oh, brother, this guy stinks. I was not a fan of Jacob. Man's had an attitude. He was giving very sassy energy. I was like, somebody needs to shut him down. Somebody needs to tell him to shut the fuck up. But nobody was doing it. Not even Riva. And I was like, he's just going to piss me off the entire novel. His talent, he could force his will onto people, and he had telekinetic ability, which you really see the most of is him using his telekinesis. And he also has like these little spikes on him, and the spikes shoot poison that'll kill you. By the way, keep that little tidbit in mind because it comes back later when I talk about shit I didn't like about this book. And did I mention he's a bitch? Because that's very important. Fuck Jacob. All right. All my homies hate Jacob. And then we got Zion or Zion. I don't know which way the pronunciation goes, but he got the good ears. Like, mans could hear anything through walls miles away. That man got... Don't talk shit about him. He gonna hear, okay? He's gonna hear. He also has the ability to see through like solids. Like, man's got X-ray Superman vision type shit. And he's also a wolf shifter that he can't really control. And he's so scared. Well, he can control it, but it's a little iffy. I feel like Zion, he wasn't mean, but he was very distant because he was like on his, oh, I must protect Riva. I can't hurt her. My wolf goes crazy. Like, what if I can't control it and I hurt her? So he really like spends a lot of the first and second book keeping to himself and just kind of like I don't want to get near anybody. He low-key did snap a couple of times and I was like, watch your mouth, watch your back, and watch yourself. Okay, bud? But he wasn't the worst out of all the guys. Like I said, a lot of his snappiness came from like a place of fear. So I didn't really blame him for a lot of his actions. The next is Andreas, and every cringy novel gotta have that friendly, flirty, like fun character, especially in reverse harem. That's him. The problem is that throughout the novel, he used that to his advantage against the female main character, against Riva. And it had me about ready. When I found out, I was like, how dare you? How dare you make me like your character? How dare you make me feel like he's the only one who gets it and this was a part of a plan? I was right there with Riva, like, how fucking dare you? Not only that, you took my girl's V card and then let that shit come to the light? How dare you? Okay? I was not happy with him. I was disappointed. I was hurt with Riva. I felt like he did it to me. But that just means he was written well. He was written well. He can retrieve memories from people. If he can like fish through their mind, retrieve memories. Although, like, to be honest, they need to explain that a little bit more because I be feeling like I don't fully understand the way it works. I feel like there's some drawbacks to it, but they don't explain it well enough for me to like get what exactly this said drawback is, because he'll receive memories and he's like, oh, I can't get that one because of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's not making sense. Like, it's given useless. That's just me personally. He also can turn invisible, which he also can't control because he be turning invisible and then don't know how to get back. And last but certainly not least, we have Dominic. And he's the one with the healing ability. He is definitely our shy boy. We always got like a shy character. This is Dominic. Dominic is not a fighter. He don't fight, but he is the healer. He got the healing ability. The problem with the healing ability is it be making them tentacles on his back grow. And you know, like he's on a, like, don't look at me. Don't look at me, because he got tentacles grown out of his back. And honestly speaking, I can't blame him for feeling that way. He's sweet. I like Dominic. I know some people didn't, but I like Dominic's character. I thought he was sweet, and I completely understand, because if y'all had 8-foot tentacles growing out of your back that you had to suck the life out of other things to heal other things with it, would you not want people to, y'all would want people to see that? I didn't think so. So Dominic is completely understandable. And if I'm being honest, his background was probably the most talked about. Like the things that they made him do within the facility, they spoke about a lot. And so for me, I really got his character, and I liked that. I don't know if y'all remember before that I was talking about another book, and I said that I felt like the characters didn't have enough personality, so they all became one person for me. That is very commonly happening in a lot of reverse harems if you don't know how to write characters. And I truly actually felt like in this one, like I could always differentiate which character was which and who is who. So I liked that a lot. Like they had their own personalities, their own struggles, their own things they were going through. And that leads me into the things that I did like about this book. I like the fact that I could differentiate the characters from one another, which you do not see a lot in reverse harems. Like a lot of the time, some of these guys be having the same freaking personality, and then they be switching perspectives, and I'm like, wait, who is this? Which one is this? That did not happen in this like it did in a previous book I covered on here. I actually like that. What's another thing I liked? I like the base of the story. Like I like the meat and potatoes of the story. I liked the action. I felt like it was well written, at times repetitive, but well written. I felt like the whole, like, we're stuck in a facility. Yes, it's a trope that's used before, but y'all come up with something original. I thought it was a good take on something that's been done before. So it wasn't the worst. Like I said, it wasn't overly cringy. I felt like the storyline had pretty good pacing throughout it, like them on the move and them running and them trying to get it together. I enjoyed that. And I felt like some of even the side characters that were kind of introduced, albeit for a short time, were well written as well. I enjoyed them. So that was another good thing that I liked about this. I liked the people at the facility. I liked one of the main villains that they introduced later on, the lady who made them. I liked those characters. Did I feel like they were killed off too easily and that sometimes there wasn't enough struggle? Yes. And I did feel like the struggle that they would have with these people was very repetitive. I felt like they needed to add a little something. Y'all remember the X-Men movie where the things, the Sentinels, I think they were called, were coming in, they were killing them, and they were good at it because they could like mimic the powers and shit like that? I felt like it was similar in that nature, but the people that they were going against weren't strong enough for it to be an interesting fight. If they ever felt like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of us, if they ever got to that point, it would just purely be because of numbers or they don't know who's coming next. And that seemed to be a reoccurring like trope and theme throughout it. I felt like something within our protagonist and our antagonist, I felt like there needed to be a little bit of something. I don't know what I felt was missing, but I did feel something was missing, something to add a little bit more interest to those things. I did find myself at times just kind of being a little bit over the fight because I felt like I had seen that before. And we kind of end up like beating these people the same kind of way. So felt like they did try to add something new to the end, but I felt like they just didn't do enough with it. They didn't add enough to it. So I do feel like I said the basic line of the story was well written. It was well, but I do feel like the battles at points did lack a little bit of tension. That's the best way I could put it. It lacked tension because we had seen it before and we knew how our main characters were going to get out of that said struggle. Because they always got out of it the same way, it felt like. I felt like some of the things I didn't like were that, yes, we love an enemies to lovers type of thing, but they can't be enemies 90% of the book. They can't hate each other the entire book. We can't get to the end of the book and you're like trying to spring on me, look, they're together. And especially when the only reason that they forgave Riva was because she quite literally jumped in front of a moving freight train to kill herself so that she wouldn't hurt them with like her newfound power. And now everybody's like, okay, like we trust her, we love her, like, y'all, her personality didn't change, like, and not even 5 seconds before that, y'all were talking cash money shit. Y'all were just like, fuck her. And so, oh, I heard something. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that they hated her almost the entire first novel. And then, if I'm being honest, the second novel is spent like with a lot of them groveling and trying to get back in her good graces. And something about it just didn't interest me. I was like, okay, like it was just too quick of a switch. It happened so fucking quick. And I was like, damn, like just like that. All she had to do was kill herself. Like, damn, girl, you should have done that earlier. But if I'm being honest, she was in dangerous situations before. If anything, fucking Jacob fucking poisoned the bitch and had her make it to where he made it to where Dominic had to heal her every day because he poisoned her with his poison. He poisoned her so that she wouldn't be able to run away. Like, do we hate her or do we like her? Do we want her around or do we want to get rid of her? And he's like, we can use her for what? But never said for what. For what? Like, I would get if she wants to stay around, but like, I don't know, like, it was just too quick. And I know it's not said, and I understand that he thought he lost somebody close to him, and he thought it was her. But it bothered me so much that they will believe the people that have been keeping them in captivity and doing experimental treatments and hurting them and making them do all these things, against their will, that he will believe those people so quick over the girl that he's literally grown up his entire life with. Didn't even give her the benefit of the doubt. Didn't even try. I didn't like that. And I feel like, bro, Andreas, your power is ass. Why can't you read her fucking memories? Like, read them hoes. Like, so we can clear this up and move on. I feel like we could have done that 50 million years ago and we could have moved on. What else? Fuck. Got me on that rant. Now my throat a little dry. I felt like I needed a little bit more spice. I know I complained in the past that I felt the other book had too much spice, but I felt like this one had a little too little. I'm not saying they have to fuck every 5 seconds. I'm just saying give me a little something to ride the wave out around them. A little tension, a little push and pull. It did not have that. Like I said, there was zero intimacy for me. Maybe somebody else saw it, but for me there was zero intimacy until the last 10% of the book. And then right after that, it was killed. The intimacy was killed because the person that she got intimate with betrayed her. So now we got nowhere. This did nothing for us. So I don't know. I wanted a little bit more spice with this one. I wanted to see a little bit more tension, a little bit more spice, a little bit more sexual tension at the very least, like with touches and kisses. I felt like I needed a little bit more of that, but we spent so much time trying to figure out how to get them to stop hating her that there was no fucking time for that. That went on a little long, like I said before. So I wish that would have changed. And the very last thing is I really, really wish that I got a better explanation for the powers that they have. So within the book, the powers come from specific, they learn that their powers come from the essence of the monsters that you hear in the fairy tales, the demons, the goblins, all these monsters that we read about 50 million times in fantasy novels. And they got their essence injected into them. But I felt like we didn't get a connection to what their powers actually connect them to in the shadow blood monster world. We never got that. And I felt like that's really needed. If they would give us like a connection with those things, like, oh, your powers come from this said thing. This is how you can learn to better them. I would have liked that. I would have liked to see that. I would have enjoyed. I think it would make the novel a little bit more enjoyable. So those are my biggest likes and dislikes. Going into some of the reviews that I liked. Somebody by the name of Reese, just like me, said, so I don't know how I feel about this book. I like the premise, but I think the ending was too rushed compared to the first part. The boys changed their mind way too quick during the train scene, so it didn't make it for as fun of friends to enemies to lovers stories. I can absolutely see the potential in this book, and I'm hoping for better things for the rest of the series. And I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said, I don't like how it's like jump in front of a train and bam, like we're together, we love you, we're sorry. I didn't like that. Wasn't a fan of that. The next review says, oh dear, this was horrible. I don't feel like it's horrible, but this is their opinion, and I felt like this is something that I wanted to talk about as well. I refuse to support this author. Sorry. I think the themes of abuse and assault were handled so poorly, and it was just awful. Right from the beginning, I knew it would be a rough ride, but at the end, I didn't believe this book was actually published. It's a no from me. Now, maybe it's just me, and maybe it's because I've read a huge array of books, and maybe I've been desensitized. And this is no hate to this person in the comment, because everybody has their right to their opinion and how they feel about something. Yes, there was a lot of like dislike and hate, but it came from a place of they lost somebody close to them and she just disappeared. They didn't know anything that happened to her. They didn't know she got taken to another facility. So they're not happy being around her. Now, the whole like poisoning her to keep her around, you guys have my opinion on that. But I don't feel like it got to the point of just like making me uncomfortable like Credence did. Like for me, it was unhinged and made me extremely uncomfortable. A lot of assault. For me, this one was just a lot of like emotional turmoil. If I'm being honest, it was a lot of emotions running high and a lot of just like, these are people, kids practically, who have been locked up in a facility for their entire lives. Why would they have emotional intelligence? And that's all I'm going to say about that. Next, this person gave it 3 stars, Angela. And they said, so I read this book, but I didn't really enjoy it. The Broken Bond series is far superior if you're on the market for a supernatural reverse harem series. I think maybe I could have liked this more if I hadn't read Broken Bonds and been so aware this many ripoffs. Mild spoiler warning: young heroine with silver hair. Reverse harem guys think she betrayed them due to a misunderstanding. One of the guys angrier and more of an asshole and bully than others. Heroine has uber power to kill massive numbers of people without touching them. Everyone feels guilty for their monstrous powers. Both stories have a character named Griffin, and the heroine gets humiliated and beat up constantly. I personally don't think that Riva gets beat up constantly. Maybe humiliated, but not necessarily beat up. And this girl says, I just don't think I can continue this series, y'all. I was super excited by the premise, but just can't get past the author piggybacking so hard off of Broken Bonds. I really don't care about these characters. Also a little too depressing for my taste. Now, I'm going to take the time, because this person said this, to go and read the Broken Bonds series, and I'm going to do an episode where I do a comparison between the two, because now I'm curious. Although I feel like in fantasy, there are tropes that are done a lot, and this is definitely one of them, done a lot in the Reverse Harem series. I probably read like 50 books like this. So but I'm curious to see how close it is to the Broken Bonds series. If you have read the Broken Bonds, let me know if you've read this as well and if you think that they're similar, because I wanted to include this review to see if maybe that's the next book that I should read. Well, I'm going to read it now, and I'm going to do a comparison. The next review says this book starts off promising with the female main character being badass, and the rest of her book is being pathetic. She's trying to rekindle her connection with a bunch of dudes who prefer to believe the bad guys that imprison them over a girl they've literally grown up with. Facts, I agree to that. Also, there's supposed to be chemistry between the guys and the female MC, but I just can't find it anywhere. Not even the slightest bit of tension. They also bounce around the map. One day they're here, the next day they're on the move. The move thing is understandable. Like, they're in the United States, so we know what these places look like, and they have to keep moving because they are being hunted by a facility that somehow always finds a way to find them. But that's neither here nor there. The power makes no sense to me. It's like they're all cool things, but there's no reasoning behind or system behind it. Just your average mutants with random cool stuff. Like I said, I brought up that point as well, and I want to know how the essence injected to them worked. And I also would like to see if there's an explanation, or if they gave these people specific things on purpose. And if they came from specific monsters that had a specific essence, or if they just mixed a whole bunch of shit around and then gave it to them randomly and saw what would happen. I would like to know more about that. Maybe it's in the other 3 books that I personally didn't get a chance to read. He said, I'm really disappointed because I wanted to like this book and I feel like I gave it a fair shot. Maybe she finds her ball along the way in the next book or at the end of this one. Who knows? I will never know it. I did not finish at 62%, but because life is too short not to read books you enjoy. So I agree with like 50% of that. I want to give it 1 star, but I can understand why this person feels the way they did, because as you saw earlier, some of my grievances for this novel were the same way. So those are my biggest takeaways from this book. My biggest takeaways from Shattered Vow. Final thoughts. I personally would tell somebody to read this, see if they enjoy it. It's not something that I would necessarily read again, but like I said earlier, it was not the worst book for me. You guys should try it, read it out. Let me know what you think. Maybe you'll disagree with me. Maybe you'll hate it. Maybe you'll actually love it. Or maybe you'll just feel in the middle like me. Let me know in the comments below if you have any books or anything else that you would like me to read. And I'd love to go over those things with you guys. Yeah, I enjoyed videoing this episode, and I can't wait for the next episode of Reese's Peace of Mind. Thank you guys for being here with me, And I'll see you next time. Peace.